Look, if you were the 0.01% of the population who actually enjoys counting calories, then I would say do that for the rest of your life. But who the hell? I think you have to be really neurotic. And I don't mean any offense to anybody. I meet some of those every now and they're like, yeah, I really like counting my calories. And I'm like, hey, kudos, because if you do, you have an advantage, a huge advantage, but that's a very small population. So for the rest of you, I can't have confidence behind a program that says, oh, all you got to do is count your calories, right? So we don't have to when we focus on fixing the insulin specifically, but all the hormones getting improved. Leptin gets improved with this, insulin gets improved with this. We fixed cortisol dysregulation. So the big one is insulin. If we get insulin under control, everything else just moves more smoothly. I want to be clear, if you don't already know this, because I don't know how much of my content you guys have digested, I'm not saying calories don't matter. And there seems to be this huge dichotomy. It's all about calories, hormones don't matter. Then you see a lot of people selling unicity that say calories don't matter, it's just insulin. The truth of the matter is they both actually matter. You could have great insulin, but if you're going out of your way to stuff your face, you're not going to lose weight. I'm sorry, like there's no magic override. Without getting too detailed with it, the caloric surplus is still necessary to gain weight, and the caloric deficit is still necessary to lose weight. The truth is, when you fix the chronically elevated insulin levels, you still need to have some consciousness of calories. That's why I make you count calories to develop that intuition. But you don't have to be so neurotic about it, because what ends up happening as you lower insulin levels, you don't have as much hunger working against you, which is why counting calories gets tough. And then the other piece of it is when we fix insulin, you don't have as much of that metabolic downregulation, which is slowing down your metabolism. This is how insulin works against you, where you're counting your calories and you're still not losing because you don't think you're in a deficit, but you are, because your metabolism has slowed down. Calories still matter, but the takeaway is hormones are senior to calories. You should still have consciousness over how you approach your eating, but you don't have to freak out about it. And that's why this is so awesome. And that's why, even though all those people on TikTok selling Unimate don't know what they're actually saying, they're technically right. And that's why they're getting results, is because they put people on this tea, they start intermittent fasting, and they get into this caloric deficit without realizing it. But you'll see a lot of people who do that tea and the balance in the tea, which I love their products, by the way. If you have any amount of insulin resistance that's past a small amount, those products don't work. So those products work for people that have low amounts of insulin resistance, partial issues. But we start getting into larger amounts of insulin resistance, inflammation, PCOS, menopause, autoimmune diseases. Good luck. Good luck with those programs working. So let's talk fasting, guys. So this is equally as powerful as cutting out processed foods, if I had to guess. But I talk more about the fasting because that's the controversial one that everyone's, wow, you could do this. Yeah, you can actually. And it parallels with what our ancestors did. The most important thing is what we're going to cover right now is the progression. Like, you guys are the ones that are going to be progressing yourself through the stages, and I'm going to be here to course correct if we need to, right? But meaning you can go as fast as you want in this, or you can go really slow and steady. So you saw how I broke it down into stages. We'll just recap here. Stage one is your intermittent. That's your eating window every single day. Your first calories consumed, last calories consumed. That's an eating window. So you want to compress that to 8 hours. And you do that every day. Once you feel like this is easy, I can progress more, then you move on to stage two. And since none of you guys are doing a reset, we don't have to worry about waiting. If you are in a reset, technically you would wait, finish the reset, and then go to stage two. But you guys are good. Kimberly's, yours is so small, I'm not worried about it. I would say finish the 1 week, Kimberly, before you start this. You get the 1 week of 7 days of eating, and then after that, you'll be good to start the long fasting. Okay. Long fasting, we have it in stage two, stage three. Stage two is the 24-hour. That's dinner to dinner. Great. You can do that. Once that becomes easy, twice a week. So some people go straight to 3 days later. I could do it again. Some people are like, whoa, that was a really tough week. I want to take the whole week to recover. And then next week I'll try to. That's your decision. That's what I want to make clear here. The whole progression speed is your decision. And the reason why I do that is because you guys each have your own unique physiologies with its own barriers. You guys have your own unique mental stuff going on. You guys have your own stress levels. And who am I to try to tell you how fast or how slow to go? Because it doesn't really matter. The only thing to think with is, yeah, if you move faster, you're probably going to get results faster. But you're also going to run into more resistance faster. Just as long as you're okay with that and you understand that, I'm okay with you choosing the speed of this. But the goal is to get to 48 per week. Now, not all humans are that black and white. 48 is a good generic goal for us to all strive for, and then we modify accordingly if we need to. So that's the big hump. Once you get past I can do 24-hour, it's great. This is the biggie. This is the going to bed after not having eaten all day and then waking up the next day, which is for some people, wow, like I didn't even know I could do that. It's crazy, right? It's empowering, and it's also sometimes scary for people. They're like, what's my body going to do? What's going to freak out? No, your ancestors did this kind of stuff all the time. And all sorts of things can happen. First time you do it, you might feel better right away. Sometimes you might feel no different, and sometimes you might feel like shit, like a bus hits you. So keep that in mind. And that's why the speed of progression is up to you. Because if you're already feeling really crummy, I don't need you to suffer. So you can make that decision to say, hey, I'm waking up in the morning, I feel tired and brain foggy, something's off, eat. You don't need to suffer. But if you wake up in the morning, you're like, I'm feeling great, keep going. That's totally up to you. So once you get to that point where you can go to bed and wake up, that's stage 3. You're not doing that twice a week. That's too much. So once you're in stage 3, you do that once per week. And now the goal just becomes increasing that up to 48. If that takes 1 week, if that takes 5 weeks, just get yourself to 48. And then if we need, like I said earlier, if we need to modify it, we need to modify it. Breaking the fast, as you saw, has its own rules. Basically, slow and steady when you eat, especially the first time you do a 48-hour fast. Especially if you jumped into it too, like you're going to be shocked. You're going to have diarrhea the first couple of times you break your fast, no matter what you do. So just expect that. The goal, though, is that your body over time starts getting used to this whole process of going to sleep and waking up, because that's really what's happening. It takes about 24 hours, give or take, for your digestive system to really tune back up and really wake back up. So you really, for a full day after, that's how long before you have a really solid, larger meal. So for that 24-hour period, you're only going to have 1 meal or 2 before you go to bed anyways, right? Because you're breaking at dinner. Don't eat a big meal that first time. If you do, because you're just, it's not the end of the world. You're just going to feel bloated and indigestion and gassy and diarrhea. You'll learn real quickly. Oh, my body didn't like that. Break it with bone broth. That's my favorite way to break your long fast. Any soup will be fine. And then every couple hours, every hour or 2, you can drink more and more, increase the volume. Then you can start adding some meat. You can start adding the things that are rough around your body is unique to each individual, but most people, it's like raw nuts, raw vegetables. That's going to be challenging for your body to break down. So think of the steamed stuff, leaner meats, because higher amounts of fat is also tougher. And this is a keto approach we're going to talk about shortly. So yeah, be careful with the high fat too for the first sort of part of breaking the long fast.
It's almost like you have the stomach bug and you need to eat the Bratz diet type thing.
Yeah, so to speak. Yeah, just staying away from the starches. But yes, it's nice, slow and steady, wake it back up. Okay, so now getting into the food, the anti-processed food diet. This is the one thing Western medicine actually understands. They got everything else wrong when it comes to lifestyle strategies, but at least they agree there. So no one's arguing for the consumption of processed foods, yet the government still allows them to heavily market it. So even though we all know it's bad, like, it's crazy. It's actually not too crazy, but when you think about what's going on up there. But so I talk about Paleo and Mediterranean because those are good representations of less processed foods. But if there's some foreign food that doesn't fall into those categories and it's not processed, I'm all for it. Meats, vegetables, nuts, and I'm okay with fruit, just under the assumption that you're not pouring yourself or consuming a large bowl of mangoes and bananas and grapes, which would be the highest glycemic, great nutritious fruits that I want you eating plenty of in the future. But let's use our common sense here in the beginning and let's go for more glycemic friendly fruits like berries are phenomenal. And you can make such delicious tasting treats with berries. I like smashing them with Greek yogurt and I add some monk fruit. It tastes really good. A lot of cool things you can do with berries. So yeah, that's your staple in the beginning. I'm not stressing or tripping if you have 1 orange every now and then or half of an apple or something like that. So I'm okay with that. Something to give you're craving sweet, I'd rather you do that. So this whole time we're adhering to this 90-10 rule. You saw that I 10%, give yourself a treat. That's your reward, whatever that looks like. For me, it's always Oreo something. That's my guilty, and chips, guilty pleasure. But I just do less of it. And then once you get to your goal, I do believe in allowing your body to have more wiggle room. That's the goal, is to get you to the point where you can actually tolerate 80-20. So we are going to go keto for the first, unless you have some strong aversion to it, let me know now. But if you're okay with the idea of going keto for 2 to 4 months, and you're like, okay, I can handle that, that doesn't stress me out because I'm saying not forever, then let's do that for 2 to 4 months. This will really speed up the process of us breaking through the insulin resistance pathway, especially because you're combining it with the fasting and everything else.
How do you know if your body is insulin resistant? Because this is how I eat. Like I know all about the glycemic index. I pretty much eat keto. So I'm just a little bit concerned that I've been doing all of these things. I take all the supplements, so it's like something is still not working for my body.
Yeah, so insulin resistance is a lot more common than we realize. And it's sad that doctors still don't test for it. You could test for it, but you really don't need to test for it. I truthfully believe there's a threshold of 20, 30 pounds that you get overweight and you're pretty much insulin resistant. Now, you could test for it objectively with fasting insulin, C-peptide. There's also indicators too, like belly fat, energy issues, brain foggy. A lot of those symptoms cross over to hormones though, so you have to consider the differential diagnosis with that. But for all intents and purposes, if you're overweight, you are very likely insulin resistant. You can't become overweight without, to a certain extent, becoming resistant to insulin. To a certain extent. Yeah. Everything we're doing with this protocol, in my opinion, is the world's most aggressive lifestyle stuff to fix insulin resistance, period. And the button on the, for me, even other functional doctors, where I differ from other functional doctors is the fasting. You'll find other functional doctors a lot of similarities in the other categories, but what makes this so unique, FLOA, is the aggressive approach towards fasting. And I think that's what gives us a huge edge in really breaking this resistance pathway and getting us sensitive again to insulin. Protein, real quick, I forgot. Super simple. Between your current weight right now and your target weight, in grams of protein per day. If there's one macro you counted, because you're unsure that you're eating enough protein, definitely count protein. But if you know you're getting solid protein, like I don't eat a meal that doesn't have protein in it. That's just, I've adopted that for so many years. If you know you eat that way, you know you're getting 30 to 50 every time you eat, then don't worry about it. But if you're like, oh, 150 grams of protein, then count that for a couple months till you get really used to this lifestyle of just having protein with every meal.
Is there a guide or something? Because that is one thing that I struggle with. I really cannot get more than probably 80 a day. So I'm like, I don't know how these people are getting 150 grams. I'm
Yeah,
absolutely not there.
yeah, for sure. So supplements are going to be your friend. Protein powders. As
Yeah.
much as I want you to get your protein from whole
Yeah.
food, it like just because I say that doesn't mean don't
Okay.
use protein powders, because the
Yeah.
problems of not getting enough protein are far worse than you having to get protein powder. Make protein powder your staple. The good news is there's a lot of data coming out about protein intake to where you very much likely don't have to have this steady state of, we used to think for a while you got to eat protein, you can only absorb 30 grams at one time, and that's not true. I still think it's ideal to spread it out as much as you can, because I would imagine the body's going to absorb better if you do spread it out to a certain extent. But we know now the body can handle a larger bolus of protein. So it's like your body has a certain reservoir. And once it gets maxed beyond that protein and amino acids, then yeah, the rest does get converted to energy via gluconeogenesis. But what's nice about that reservoir is you can go a certain amount of time without being concerned. And then your body, and then so if you just have a crazy day where it's not a fasting day and you're going home, you're like, oh my gosh, I just had no protein today. Well, you're not going to get 150 grams from meat unless you got a real tough feasting attitude, right? And I do want to teach you guys how to feast. That's later. You do need to learn how to feast. That is normal to know how to feast when you want to. But yeah, walk into dinner, have a big piece of protein, and plan on drinking 50 to 75 grams. At the end of the day, if you have one shot and you haven't had protein, you need to drink it and eat it at the same time to catch up for the day. Because this is one of the powerful ways to protect muscle mass loss, alongside lifting heavy weights, which we're going to talk about as well. So we talked about fasting, we talked about food, supplements. Sometimes it's easier if I just share again. So I know, Kimberly, you said you were on it already, which is awesome. There's a lot of supplements here. So keep in mind that I have my essentials. I'm going to go over the essentials right now. All the other ones are situational. I've thought a lot about how I do this because it's really easy for a functional doc to say, you need all of these things, right? But what I've learned over the years is while many people do, it becomes overwhelming when you say that, even to somebody who needs it. So I'm like, okay. So I've gotten better now where I'm just like, okay, here's what you absolutely need. Here's what you probably need. And it's on you because your finances are also a concern too, as well. And I want to respect that as much as I can.
If you're watching these clips from my coaching calls and wishing you can be part of the team, I'll put a link in the description, but we have thousands of individuals who are kicking ass using microdose intermittent use protocols and implementing sustainable lifestyle strategies, guys. Click that link, fill out your information. Now, back to the show.
So the essentials right here, this is your vitamin D, this is your essential fatty acids, your fish oil. This is your 2 forms of magnesium. I give you guys a little extra magnesium than a human would need because of the GLP-1. I do believe in extra magnesium. And I like threonate before bed because it has been shown to actually promote better sleep too as well. And we can always get better sleep. Then the electrolytes become essential because you're fasting. And you will feel it really fast. Every 24-hour fast you do if you don't get enough electrolytes and sodium. So that's why you take a scoop of the electrolytes along with an extra 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, Celtic or Himalayan ideally, just because they don't make enough. They don't make those electrolytes with the intention of somebody actually fasting for 24 hours, so they don't put enough salt in there. If you have
I use the Ultima electrolytes. Is that okay, or do I need to switch over to Dr. Berg's?
Does Ultima, there's so many brands that people mention to me, as long as it's sugar free,
It is.
calorie free.
Pretty sure.
So just check that.
Yeah.
And I'm good with it. Yeah, like I'm not hearing to say you have to buy my stuff, but I just know Dr. Berg's has it's sugar free, calorie free, and it's sweetened with stevia. So what does it say on that one?
Yeah, it's sugar-free, calorie-free, and stevia.
Oh, great. Good. I'm okay with that. And does anybody here have an autoimmune disease?
I do.
Okay. What do you have? If you don't mind sharing.
Hashimoto's.
Okay. Did you get a chance to review low dose naltrexone?
I briefly did, but I'm on stuff from my naturopath doctor.
Okay.
I think doing that, I feel like my numbers are all pretty decent, so I don't know if I need that.
I have a tendency to say all autoimmune patients. That's a general statement. Of course, there is those, but if you're working with a naturopath, that's good. So are you doing this like kind of comprehensive thing where maybe twice a year you do a super deep blood panel? And okay, good. That's awesome. That's awesome.
And that's why all the supplements that you've listed, I've been taking them for years, honestly.
Good. So
yeah.
Ask your naturopath what they think about LDN. But if they got it under control, sounds like you do, great. Most people come to us when they're autoimmune, they're not working with a naturopath or a functional doctor. And so their inflammation is crazy. Okay, good, then you're good. Okay, all the other categories below that, these are situational, right? So you see I have the fiber stack. What we do know about, and sounds like both of you guys know this already, but diversity in your gut microbiome is huge. So if you're not getting 20 to 30 different fruits and vegetables, I recommend that live fiber product because it's got like 20 different fibers in it. If you're having sugar cravings issues, there's some supplements there. If you have any sort of gut issues now or after starting GLP-1, because that happens very often, do some gut healing stuff here. There's quite a bit there. There's the digestive enzymes. There's the anti-inflammation, which is we talked about that for curcumin, resveratrol. There's Repairvite, which has got really good. It's got glutamine. It's got slippery elm, marshmallow root. These are all gut healing things. Gut issues, or if you start getting gut issues from the GLP-1, which is very common, this is how you approach it. Digestive enzymes are probably the most important thing, but it's really hard to prioritize without me doing a personalized stool test on you, which I don't do that kind of stuff anymore. I'm giving you guys really good functional general templates that cover most situations for most people. Obviously, you have a naturopath, so maybe they're doing individualized stool testing with you, which is great. Other than taking the test, I hate that part. Having to scoop your own poo is not my favorite thing to do. Okay, cool. Now we get to the extra appetite suppressing supplements. This is where Unimate and Balance come in. I also have CaloCurb. I even mentioned nicotine gum if you're really on a budget and you're not a prior smoker. People are always like, really? There's actually really good data on nicotine in isolation, believe it or not. Very powerful at boosting your energy, mental boost, and protects muscle mass, burns fat. suppresses appetite. So something to consider. The reason why I recommend having at least one of those things, my favorite is the Feel Great system, is because you can rely on them when you need them, which is nice. So instead of taking them every day like they recommend, you probably won't need to because you're on the tirzepatide. But being able to grab some Unimate on any times when you're extra hungry or you're feeling cravey, snacky, you can grab that. The Unimate's got some caffeine in it, not that much, but some, so you can take that earlier and take the balance later. Let me share my screen again.
Okay, awesome.
All this stuff is right here. So below the supplements, we get to the extra appetite suppression. You got direct links to get the Feel Great, the Calo Curb, even exogenous ketones. If you're trying to do it that way, you can do exogenous ketones, MCT oil. Those can help suppress appetite a lot. Now, your calories, though, right? You're getting calories in, which means you will lose some of that cellular autophagy benefit of fasting, which is the anti-inflammation. But if you have to use fat as a stepping stone to get you through long fasting, and then eventually you decrease the fat, I'll do that all day. That's good. That's still really good. Okay, we're going to talk about stress and sleep. There are stress and sleep supplements, but that's a whole section next. Okay, cool. Stress and sleep are biggies. They both cause a similar problem of cortisol dysregulation. Lack of quality sleep actually creates even more problems too. If you have stress in your life, and this is subjective, so you have to just be honest with yourself. You know when you have a stressless life and everything's great, and you know if you don't, right? So if you have some chronic stress, testing for cortisol is honestly, in my opinion, not worth the money, because I'm going to tell you to do these things anyways, regardless of what the test says. This is what it is. You're going to be healthier if you implement these regardless of what a test says. And you need it even more if you did have cortisol issues. Implementing a stress management technique is so powerful. Just choose one, like breath work, journaling, drawing, mindfulness. There's so many apps now. Just choose one, and whatever sounds cool to you, whatever floats your boat. I do breath work, 5 minutes. It's part of my bedtime routine. Just pick one that you feel good with. Now, if you are like, I do have stress right now, even before this management technique, tackle your stressful situation. Now, I know this kind of goes without saying, but I always say it just in case. It is easy for people to, let's say the stressful situation, for example, is I got to have this conversation with my son because blah, 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 blah. He's not going to go to college where he wants to go. I don't know. Handle that stressful situation, get it done, reorganize it, tackle it, because if it floats there in your universe without you realizing, it can cause some cortisol issues. For many of you, you've probably handled the stressful situation. You've done your best to handle it, and you can't. It is stressful by nature. That's where we get into the stress management technique. In the meantime, purchase those stress management herbs. They're very powerful. They're called adaptogenic herbs. Many people incorrectly use adaptogenic herbs. There are situations where you should be on them constantly, but that's not normal. I don't think adaptogenic herbs or sleep aids should be taken regularly. I want you to use them for 3 months if you have an issue, just so we can tolerate it better. But I want you to implement these lifestyle strategies so that you can save the stress management supplements for when you actually need them. Any questions on stress?
I do have
Go for it.
my cortisol. I had my cortisol tested, I guess, a year ago now. I don't know if I can show this to you or if you want to see it, or if it doesn't really matter.
Was it blood or was it
Saliva?
Saliva. Okay, cool. So it was a 4-point test. Yeah, if you want to, we can take a look at it real quick. Yeah, just to see what.
Do I just hold it up on my screen? What do I do?
You have it a physical?
Yeah, I do.
If you can put it in front of your camera, let's see if I can read it. Oh, perfect. Go up a little bit. Right there. All right. This is good. This is actually a really good test. So you have low cortisol in the morning.
Yeah.
So now this was a year ago. So
yeah,
we have to consider that. Did they, what did they give you to do in the last year since that test?
I don't even remember.
That looked pretty low. So
what would some things be that I would have done?
Yeah. So strengthening cortisol in the morning, the most powerful ways to do that is sunlight for the first 10 minutes in your eyes at the moment the sun comes out. That is, I recommend everybody does that regardless. But for you, that'll help strengthen your cortisol.
Okay.
So I do this every day. And there's some days where I'm not able to get out as soon as the sun comes out, but I make that a goal where I get out And I double dip. I'm not just sitting there staring towards the sun. I'm doing stuff. I'm exercising or walking or something. So you guys probably see me on TikTok live when I go for my walks in the morning too. Getting your eyes looking towards the sun as soon as it comes up will sometimes double your cortisol pulse in the morning. It's crazy. Now, in your case, I would also add some high intensity exercise as well. Walking is not going to give you that cortisol pulse as much as burpees or something to get your heart rate exploding as fast as you can. High intensity.
Even with the Hashimoto's, you're okay with the HIIT stuff?
Yeah, because looking at that test, I am only in the morning. Because the problem with an autoimmune disease is that spiking your cortisol is problematic, but not for you in the morning. You're low.
Yeah.
And then a third thing you can do is cold showers.
Okay.
So those are the three that I know of that are very powerful, natural things to boost your cortisol.
All right, awesome, because I didn't do any of those.
Your naturopath didn't tell you any of that?
No, I think it was more supplement route, but I just can't remember because I'm on a lot of supplements, so I don't know what specific.
Yeah, supplements are amazing, but they're only one piece of the equation, and they're expensive. Anyways, not downplaying the naturopath. Okay, cool. So for the rest of you, okay, so we talked about cortisol. We'll talk about sleep now. So every human, on average, should be getting 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep. So if you're not getting 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep, or if you have issues with energy, even though there's multiple causes of that, you have to assume maybe it's sleep. So if you're not getting 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep, or you just have lower energy, it's not optimal, we got to assume sleep's an issue and we need to optimize it. So unlike stress, where we're just trying to implement a stress management technique, sleep is different. You want to make a bunch of changes to your sleep environment. The video that I just posted on YouTube is actually more current than the one on FLOA University, so go check that one out. I don't know if you guys know who Dr. Andrew Huberman is, but he did a 6-episode series on sleep, 15 hours long. If you have 15 hours to learn about sleep, my point is I took everything off of that and added more into a single hour video. So this is the most science-backed recent updates on sleep optimization. So go check that one out. That one's really good. Also, when you start long fasting, you might become like restless. You might get great sleep right now, but it might become challenging. So let us know if that happens, because we actually don't want you to compromise sleep for the benefit of fasting. You need to increase your fasting without compromising sleep. So it's pretty rare, but it does happen. Let us know. And same thing, if you have a current lack of quality sleep now, go get 3 months of those sleep aids that I recommended. Use them for 3 months and then see if you don't need them anymore. That's the goal. Okay. So it sounds like you guys are all big on supplements, so I don't probably need to stress about having an AM, PM routine for pills. Sounds like you guys are dialed in. Get that in. I have a bottle of my sleep aids and my stress herbs that sit there next to my supplements. So next to the ones I take every day, I make a decision in the evening. I go, how was today's stress level? It was high today. Or if I did have a drink or two of alcohol, which doesn't happen, but I do drink very occasionally, I'm automatically taking that because that's how much I respect my body. But I use it situational like that, so the power is there. That's my other problem with taking those folks so regularly is they do become a little bit less effective. So I save my sleep for situations like that where I'm just taking it preemptively. Same thing in the morning, because you take the stress supplements in the morning and you take the sleep ones in the evening. So the morning, I go, how was yesterday? How did I sleep last night? Take the stress ones, bam, the adaptogen occurs. So that's how I approach it. And that's the relationship I want you guys to have after the 3 months if you do need them right now. Okay, cool. So exercise, you probably heard me say this over and over, lifting heavy weights is non-negotiable. So we need to approach weight training like we are trying to build muscle mass. And I get it that maybe becoming big and muscular is not your goal. Don't worry, you're not going to become big and muscular, but you do need to lift weights like you're trying to build muscle mass. So literally, this might sound crazy, but I try to really give you guys the best example. Have you ever seen videos of bodybuilders lifting? That's how you need to lift, minus the volume. You're not going to do the kind of volume they do. You're not going to lift as long or as many sets, but the intensity they take, that's the goal. You don't need to start off like that. Anything over nothing is good, but eventually resistance training requires progressive overload. There needs to be some progression with your routines, and nobody does it better than bodybuilders. because their freaking goal is putting on as much muscle as they possibly can. Anybody not doing a solid 3-day a week, 30 to 45-minute weight training routine, and we're all doing this together, so don't feel embarrassed. Is anybody not doing that currently?
I'm not doing it.
Okay. Thank you, Kimberly. Lisa, how's your weight training routine going?
Yeah, not doing it, but I do have a program.
Oh, good. Let's start with Lisa, and then we're going to work our way down. Lisa, what's your weight training look like?
I work out with weights consistently for the last 2 years, 3 days a week, and I do Pilates twice a week.
Good.
I've been doing Pilates for about 5 years.
Fantastic. Pilates is good, but I'm glad you're also supplementing in addition. So for the other stuff outside of Pilates, do you have a protocol you follow? Like, how do you structure the workouts? The weight
I have a trainer, but I just decided I could tackle this on my own possibly, and so I just have I have an app, Fitbod app that I use.
Look, I think that's phenomenal. Having a trainer for the first 2 months of somebody who's never lifted is a requirement, in my opinion. And then after that, it becomes a luxury. Like, it's still awesome. If I had a trainer, I would get a better workout in, but very different price point, and they're
Sure.
expensive. So of course, I think if you've had one for a while, absolutely, you could do a lot of this on your own, and maybe have him once a month or her to check in is nice too. Hey, am I still doing it right? Because it's easy to slip up a little bit. So good, that's fantastic.
If you guys enjoyed watching this video, then you guys are going to want to check this one out. I take a deep dive into fasting and overall lasting weight loss strategies utilizing these GLP-1 medications in the best format, microdosing, intermittent usage. Check that out, guys. We'll see you later.